It's not by chance that you're viewing this video. There's a reason you're here. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing of your life and know that you're being led to where you're meant to be. As you stumble on this video, perhaps not by chance, it will serve to awaken your spirit. Today, heaven is deliberately interrupting the cycles of your life to deliver a message of divine instruction, and this interruption marks the decisive end of the delays, the confusion, the soul ties, the exhausting assignments, and the misplaced loyalties that have been silently suffocating your God-given anointing. You, who are uniquely chosen, unmistakably marked, and critically needed in this pivotal hour, are not meant to remain in environments, relationships, or roles that were never designed to contain or limit your spiritual and personal growth. Therefore, God is not merely suggesting, but commanding you to break free from every bondage, distraction, and restriction that has held you back. This moment, this message, is a divine confirmation of what your spirit has already sensed. A shift is taking place. You have outgrown certain spaces and dynamics, and the season for obedience has arrived. In order to provide clarity and revelation, this message will be unfolded in 7 powerful and prophetic chapters, each designed to illuminate why God is intentionally shutting this door in your life and what He is meticulously preparing for you on the other side, ensuring that you understand both the reason for the closure and the magnificent opportunities awaiting your obedience. Before we explore these revelations, take a moment to engage, like, share, and subscribe, because this is not merely content for passive consumption. It is a divine mandate, a prophetic word sent by the Spirit to confirm the truth that your heart has already recognized but which your surroundings have persistently denied. This declaration functions as your official release notice, a spiritual summons to rise into the fullness of your destiny. To all who have supported this message through super thanks or other forms of encouragement, may God bless you abundantly for your presence, your hunger for truth, and your unwavering loyalty to divine guidance have not gone unnoticed. By engaging with this word, you are not simply absorbing information, you are actively walking in alignment with heaven's plan, and for that, profound gratitude is extended. If your spirit resonates with this frequency, we invite you to type 77 in the comments immediately, a number deliberately chosen as a heavenly signal, a sacred code, a spiritual affirmation declaring, "I am ready to release all that has been draining my spirit. I am ready to step fully into the anointing that has been ordained for me. I am prepared to embrace the divine shift that has already been decreed over my life." Not everyone will reach the conclusion of this message. Only those who are truly chosen, those endowed with the courage to obey the divine voice when it declares, "This ends now," will endure, for what follows demands complete freedom, distinct separation, and a state of being fully awake, entirely surrendered and wholly anointed. And because this message is intended not merely to inspire, but to activate, you must listen with utmost attention and, whenever your spirit directs, return repeatedly, for with each encounter, a new level of clarity, understanding, and confirmation will arise within you, preparing you for what lies ahead. Now let us embark upon this sacred journey toward deeper understanding, fully committing ourselves to the exploration of divine wisdom. Let us now delve deeply into the sacred word. Chapter 1. The weight of the calling upon your life exceeds the capacity of small environments, and beloved chosen one, the tension you've been experiencing recently is not coincidence nor confusion, but rather divine confirmation. For you are not uncomfortable because something is wrong with you, but because your current environment can no longer accommodate the elevation to which you have been called, as you have been attempting to compress your God-given assignment into limited spaces, into relationships, roles, routines, and responsibilities that were never designed to bear the full measure of your oil. And while you have sought to remain accessible in places from which God has already closed the chapter, the spiritual discomfort you now experience is the tension between where you are and where you are destined to be. A tension that serves as a heavenly signal proclaiming that this season is far too constricted for the size of your mantle, and that the frustration, isolation, and subtle suffocation you feel are not indicators of failure, but signs that you have outgrown what surrounds you. even as your faithfulness and loyalty have kept you tethered to places and people who can no longer nurture your next level. And though those who once aligned with your path may now seem distant, know that this is neither personal nor punitive, but prophetic, for you are being drawn out precisely because you have been set apart. And your anointing carries not only heavenly weight and prophetic authority, but also assignment, territory, and influence. And anything that cannot recognize or honor the calling upon you will inevitably attempt to reduce, distract, or delay you. Which is why there exist rooms in which your spirit can no longer breathe and dynamics in which your discernment is stifled. And the reason you feel increasingly isolated is not because you are failing, but because God is isolating you to prepare you for elevation. As you have already outgrown the limitations, expectations, and comfort zones of those around you, and small-minded environments can no longer contain you, which is also why certain doors are closing not as punishment, but as divine protection. And though you may have tried to explain yourself, to remain quiet in order to avoid offending others with your expansion, the time for shrinking to survive is over. The era of dimming your divine identity to avoid discomforting others has ended. For you were chosen, you were marked, and your anointing demands space, recognition, and full expression. When David attempted to wear Saul's armor, it did not fit him, not because of any weakness within him, but because he had been called to fight in a manner uniquely suited to his purpose. And in the same way, you too are not destined to wear what others wear or conform to patterns that were never designed for your calling. For you are called to shift circumstances, to lead with authority, to rise above limitation, which is why your soul will no longer permit you to rest in places that no longer correspond to your elevation. For once you have tasted the fullness of divine ascent, stagnation will inevitably feel like suffocation, serving simultaneously as both a warning and a release from God, commanding you to cease shrinking, cease explaining yourself, and cease remaining stuck, because the anointing upon your life is far too weighty to remain in small or constricted spaces. And God is now calling you up, calling you out, and calling you forward into the fullness of your destiny, revealing that you are no longer the person you were before, for you have become too prophetic for shallow arenas, too expanded for the old systems, and too transformed for familiar cages. And as the lid is lifted, the room itself shifts, and your release has been divinely ordered. For you are too anointed to remain beneath your level, and too chosen to continue hiding the crown that has been placed upon your head. Chapter 2. They admired the gift you carried, but feared the growth that accompanied it. And, chosen one, let us speak the unvarnished truth. Some of the very people who celebrated you at your lowest levels are now silent as God begins to elevate you. For they loved your presence when you were still uncertain. They appreciated your gift only when it served their purposes. They applauded when you were accessible, struggling, or seeking validation. Yet the moment your oil began to mature and your anointing began to take authority, the atmosphere shifted, revealing that they had never anticipated your evolution, that they had not expected you to walk with power, and that they preferred you when your crown was askew, your voice timid, and your awareness of your divine identity still incomplete. Now that you have started standing with confidence, speaking with clarity, discerning with precision, and walking with greater weight in your calling, their words have grown shorter, their energy colder, and the true intentions of their hearts, never entirely pure, have begun to surface. Yet despite their inconsistencies, you remain loyal, excusing their sudden silence, praying for peace even as they whispered behind corners, and continuing to show up while they recoiled from the version of you that God is revealing. And here lies the divine truth. They did not love you for who you truly are, but only for the version of you that did not provoke insecurity within them. They did not nurture your growth, but tolerated your gift only while it remained small. For they were never sent to journey with you to the fullness of your destiny, but merely to stand beside you at the beginning. And the longer you cling to expired attachments, the more you impede the flow of divine connections into your life. For dragging old loyalties into new seasons burdens your spirit and delays the unfolding of all that God has ordained for you. The emotional fatigue you are experiencing is not merely the result of spiritual warfare, but rather the consequence of spiritual misalignment. For although you continue to pray for release, God cannot release you into the fullness of your destiny while you remain tethered to fragmented pieces of the past. And you cannot rise while clinging to what is rooted in resentment, nor can you carry the weight of your divine mantle while simultaneously holding onto the comfort of others. Nor can you seek to please both God and the people who fear the work He is doing in you, which is precisely why separation is occurring, why isolation feels divine, and why certain doors remain closed despite your persistent knocking. Because God is deliberately closing these doors to protect your future from being poisoned by the past, and therefore let them distance themselves. Let them misunderstand. Let them call you changed, for indeed you have grown, awakened, and aligned in ways that not everyone can process, particularly the bold, obedient, spirit-led version of yourself. And God now commands you to cease grieving their exit and instead prepare for your divine entrance into spaces and stages that your former crowd could never have contained, into rooms that demand peace rather than approval, into experiences that require clarity rather than compromise, and to refrain from diluting your essence to remain palatable to those who secretly hoped you would remain small, for they recognized the future in you before you did and therefore sought to confine you. But this is the season of unboxing, the chapter of unveiling, the appointed moment in which God reveals not only the fullness of who you are, but also who never truly belonged in your life. Chapter 3. Disobedience and delay is still disobedience. And chosen one, you already know what God has told you, for He whispered it in moments of quiet, confirmed it through unmistakable signs, repeated it through people, dreams, and divine nudges. And you did not mishear Him nor imagine it, yet you hesitated, not out of rebellion, but out of carefulness, because you love deeply, because you overthink every detail, because you hope the timing would feel more convenient, and because you did not want to hurt or disappoint anyone or step into the unknown without complete clarity. Yet here is the unvarnished truth. The Spirit is calling you to confront the reality that delayed obedience is still disobedience. For though you may not have uttered a verbal no to God, your inaction has spoken louder than words, and you are not evil, only weary, not resistant, only afraid. Yet even so, the delay has become a detour, and that detour now constitutes a danger to your destiny. For every day that you linger in the place God has told you to leave, you forfeit ground in the territory He has already prepared for you. And every hour spent second-guessing His instructions diminishes the divine acceleration He designed to flow through your obedience, so that while you may be asking for confirmation, God has already given clear instruction. While you wait for permission, heaven has already granted authority. And while you hope for signs, the signs have been manifesting for months, reminding you that God is not calling you to understand everything, but to trust Him fully. That this is not a matter of comfort, but of covenant. Not about ease, but about obedience. Not about timing, but about alignment. And that your destiny will move forward only as you step faithfully into the path He has ordained. There is territory with your name upon it, but the door granting access has a window, and if you fail to seize the appointed moment, it will not remain open indefinitely. For although God is merciful, loving, and patient, He is also just, and He honors movement rather than stagnation, revealing that certain blessings appear only when obedience is complete, immediate, and wholehearted. And while you have prayed, fasted, and poured out tears, the breakthrough you long for lies on the other side of your unequivocal yes, your full, swift, faith-filled yes. And you must not allow your love for people to override your loyalty to God, nor your tendency to overthink to drown out the power of your anointing, nor your reliance on human logic to rob you of your divine launch. For God is waiting not to move Himself, but for you to shift, to release the relationship, the job, the city, or the old mindset that He has already instructed you to let go, knowing that your hesitation costs more than you realize, because there are doors that will not wait until you feel ready, assignments that demand urgency, and people on the other side of your obedience who suffer while you delay. And this is not merely about your comfort or convenience, but about your calling, your legacy, and what heaven intends to accomplish through your life. And so you stand at a divine crossroads where the Spirit declares unequivocally that this ends now, or the next door will pass you by, commanding you to obey while the oil still flows, while the heavens remain open, while your spirit is still sensitive. For a moment will come when delay will not merely slow you down, but will close the door completely. And in that moment, you will realize that you do not need more time, more signs, or more human approval, but only courage, faith, and wholehearted obedience. Chapter 4. Your anointing is activating new levels of spiritual warfare, and, chosen one, you have been feeling it and wondering what is happening. The pressure, the fatigue, the strange dreams, the sudden anxiety, the unexplained distractions, the people who turn cold without reason, and the heaviness that lingers even after you pray. And while you may have feared that you were off track or slipping, the truth is that you are not breaking down, but breaking through, for what you are experiencing is not failure, but friction and spiritual resistance created because your anointing is disturbing old systems. And this warfare did not manifest when you were playing small or silent and safe. But now, as your obedience grows louder than your fear, as your gifts mature, and as your authority increases, the spirit realm has taken notice, even causing hell itself to become nervous. For the enemy does not attack what does not pose a threat and does not expend resources on those who fail to disrupt darkness. And therefore the pressure you are under is not condemnation, but confirmation. Proof that your oil is working, your prayers are reaching, your alignment is dangerous, and the warfare is a signal that you are closer to your destiny than ever before. Yet with new levels come new devils, and with higher realms come heavier responsibilities, which is why attacks feel stronger, warfare feels personal, and discernment feels urgent, as God allows this pressure not to break you, but to build, prepare, and equip you, teaching your hands to war and sharpening your ears to his voice. Because where you are going, distractions, emotional entanglements, weak connections, and outdated attachments cannot accompany you. And the enemy is strategic, often coming not with obvious horns and flames, but through delays, confusion, and people who seem good yet pull you out of alignment. Which is why God, in his mercy, is cutting cords, causing certain relationships to feel suddenly off, causing people you once depended on to go silent, and causing doors you did not even ask to close to shut. And this is not rejection, but divine protection, as God declares that he needs you battle-ready, focused, clean, and light. For you cannot carry spiritual clutter or emotional baggage into your next elevation, nor can you operate in full authority while still entangled with anything that drains your power. Therefore, do not be surprised if isolation increases. Do not be shocked if warfare intensifies. And do not be discouraged if you feel as though you are standing alone. For God is deliberately setting you apart, refining your spirit, increasing your awareness, stretching your endurance, and, above all, drawing a definitive line, marking the moment when heaven declares, enough. This ends now. Enough of the cycles, enough of the delays, enough of the compromising, enough of the false alignments, because you have been marked for something far greater, and you can no longer play with fire while seeking God's favor, having outgrown that which once fed you, matured beyond that which once satisfied you, and now called to a level of obedience and discipline that your anointing itself demands. Chapter 5. You are carrying a mission that requires separation, and, beloved chosen one, though this may be difficult to hear, it is necessary, for there comes a moment in every divine journey when God whispers, "Come away," not to punish or isolate you out of cruelty, but to preserve the sacred gift he has placed within you. For what you carry is neither ordinary nor common, nor is it meant for everyone, but rather it is holy and set apart. Just as Abraham was told to leave his father's house before he could see the full vision, just as Moses was called into the wilderness not to be forgotten, but to be forged, and just as David was pulled away from the crowd not because he was unworthy, but because his crown was never meant to be crafted in public, and the principle is timeless. Separation always precedes elevation, always, and therefore you cannot remain in the same rooms and expect your oil to multiply. nor continue entertaining familiar spirits and expect divine clarity, nor stay surrounded by people who only know your past and expect them to celebrate your prophetic future. For some cannot perceive you beyond the version they are comfortable with, loving you only while you play small, cheering only while your growth does not convict their stagnation, and tolerating you only while you do not disturb the structure of their dysfunction. Yet the moment you begin to heal, evolve, hear from God clearly, and walk in authority, they either withdraw or attempt to pull you back, and God will not allow this, for He loves you too much to let false attachments define your identity, which is why He shakes the table, disturbs your comfort, and allows discomfort even in the places you once felt safe, not to make you lonely, but to align you fully with the destiny He has ordained. Beloved chosen one, consecration is not optional when you are carrying something holy, for you are pregnant with purpose, and just as a mother must adjust her diet, her pace, and her surroundings for the sake of what is forming within her, so too must you adjust for the sake of what God is forming inside of you. Because this mission cannot be corrupted by comfort, this purpose cannot be diluted by opinion, and this oil cannot be shared with just anyone, which is why God is drawing you into silence, solitude, and stillness. Not to render you invisible, but to make you undeniable when the appointed time arrives. And you must not confuse divine separation with rejection, for you are not being left out, but set apart. You are not crazy for sensing that you no longer belong in certain circles, for you have outgrown conversations, emotional habits, and environments that once felt normal. And God is actively untangling you from people and places that were never meant to accompany you into your next season. And yes, this process will bring pain, grief, and a sense of unfairness. Yet the weight of this separation is far lighter than the cost of disobedience, for you cannot delay your destiny in order to preserve old versions of peace, nor forfeit your prophetic path to maintain the approval of those who never recognized your full potential, because God has called you out in order to call you up. And the calling upon your life is not solely for your benefit, but is generational, transformational, and eternal. And such a level of impact inevitably requires separation, which is why you must not resist it. Chapter 6. Your next season requires a new you, and, beloved chosen one, this upcoming season is not merely a shift in circumstances, a change of city, a new job, a new relationship, or even the arrival of another blessing, but rather a profound shift in identity, calling forth a true, authentic, renewed version of yourself that has long been buried beneath layers of pain, fear, repeating cycles, and conditioning. For heaven is calling you into your full becoming, and God is serious about your transformation. And although you have been seeking breakthrough, elevation, and acceleration, God is demanding something far deeper, a higher version of you. Not a perfect version, not a filtered version, but the healed, whole, undistracted, bold, obedient, God-aligned version of who He created you to be before the world ever knew your name. And what is coming is far too big for the version of you that still doubts, too sacred for the version that still self-sabotages, too prophetic for the version that still seeks validation to move. For you cannot carry childhood wounds into a promised land, unhealed trauma into a divine assignment, or small thinking into global impact. And you know this, which is why you have outgrown conversations, spaces, mindsets, and even your own limiting behaviors. And this is not merely maturity, it is your mantle awakening. For what you are stepping into is not simply a new season, but a new responsibility, a prophetic fulfillment season, the chapter in which every delay begins to make sense. Every crushing experience carries purpose, and all the waiting starts to unfold into understanding why God kept you hidden for so long. And yet, to enter fully into that future, the old version of you must die. The version of you that shrinks when your light begins to attract attention. The version that delays obedience due to overthinking. The version that over-explains spiritual decisions to carnal minds. This version cannot cross over with you, for you have dreamed your next level, prayed over it, and prophesied it. Yet now God is declaring that it is time to fully become it, because the people, platforms and provision you are destined to impact are waiting, and they are assigned to the you that is healed, whole, fearless, obedient, and aligned without compromise. And you do not need to reinvent yourself, but rather return to the person God originally created you to be. And so, chosen one, it is time to release the survival version of yourself, the version that carried you through trauma, betrayal, and difficulty, which has served its purpose but is no longer needed in this next chapter. For what is required now is clarity, spiritual endurance, and the full embodiment of your calling, because you are not merely entering a new chapter. You are stepping into the very reason you were born, a destiny that cannot be carried by the distracted or hesitant version of yourself. And therefore, God is issuing a summons today, not to the version you have been pretending to be, but to the real you, the one who knows how to war in silence and win through worship, the one who is surrendered, steadfast, and spiritually strategic. Because that is the version your next season demands, with no more delay, no more waiting for the right time. As God declares, this ends now. The hesitation, the inconsistency, for it is time for the real you to rise. And once you do, doors will open that you did not knock on. Connections will arrive that you did not chase, and provision will flow that you did not ask for. Chapter 7. Obedience is your escape route to breakthrough, beloved chosen one. Although you have been praying, fasting, and weeping in the midnight hour, asking God to shift circumstances in your favor, the truth is that the shift is already in motion, but it is your obedience that activates it. For you have asked for open doors, clarity, and confirmation. Yet this is not merely another message, but heaven's green light, not earned through louder prayers or through further delay, but through radical, quiet, immediate obedience. And although you have been asking God to remove the weight will only lift once you move, for staying still under the guise of humility or wisdom has spiritually become disobedience, because delay is not always waiting, and sometimes it is rebellion disguised in religious language. And God is not ignoring your cries, but is patiently waiting for your yes, not merely from your lips, but with your feet, even as He has already lined up the people, the places, the provision, and the protection necessary for your breakthrough. For heaven only funds obedience, and though you may feel stuck, you are not stuck. You are summoned to walk by faith, summoned to trust God even without full clarity, for this is your Jordan River moment in which the waters will not part until your feet touch the edge. Your Abraham moment in which you must leave the familiar even without a full map. And your Peter moment in which you must step out of the boat when Jesus calls, even if the waves are violent. And the truth is that your breakthrough is not behind the door, but on the other side of obedience. For the enemy is not afraid of your gift, but terrified of your obedience. Because a gifted person without obedience poses no real threat, but an obedient chosen one is unstoppable. The enemy would much rather that you continue to question yourself and seek endless confirmation, for he knows that if you were ever to fully obey, you would break generational bloodline patterns and step into blessings intended not only for you, but for those who come after you. Yet God does not require perfection from you. He only requires your yes, your raw, uncomfortable, faith-filled yes. And chosen one, this is not the hour for hesitation, for this is the divine moment in which obedience becomes your escape route, your pathway out of stagnation, your release from unnecessary delays, and your freedom from confusion, all of which have held you back from walking fully into the destiny God has prepared for you. Thanks for watching. Here ends this video. If you're eager for more, whether additional chapters to this spiritual journey or a powerful visual concept for a video or thumbnail, simply just say the word. I'm here and am ready to help bring it all to life.